wherever in the world that you're watching us. So this webinar will be talking about the MyAthens Plus core integration. And we're going to be hearing from Jake Smallridge, our senior product manager. And he'll be going through with what the integration entails on the MyAthens Plus platform. And afterwards, we're also going to hear from Petr, who is the head and founder of Core. Petr is a senior research fellow in text and data mining at Knowledge Media Institute at the Open University. And he'll give you a little bit more context of what Core is, a little bit more of a deep dive. And we'll also be happy to answer any questions that you might have on that. And talking about questions, we'll have a Q&A at the end, and we'll be joined by my OpenAthens colleague, Christos Skoutas. My name is Cynthia Trigonopoulos, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this session. Next slide, please. So a little bit of housekeeping before we start. As always, we're recording this webinar. We will be sending you a link to the recording later on, probably next week by email, but you can also check out our YouTube channel. We always post our webinar recordings there. So in the meantime, you might find some useful content there. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. So it will keep you busy while we don't have the video available to you. If you have any questions for Jake or Petr, you can post them on the Q&A box. So it's at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Also, we have auto captions in this webinar. So if you want to disable them, just go on the CC button on the bottom part of your screen. So you should be able to disable them. And if you want to post general queries in the chat, if you want to interact with each other, post some comments, please feel to do so. We're happy to allow you to have a conversation with your peers while we're presenting. So over to you, Jake.
Thanks a lot, Cynthia. So today's focus for this webinar is really around the new integration that we are launching with Core. I'll start by just giving a quick overview of MyAthens before we get to that, though, just because some of you may be more familiar with it than others. So MyAthens is a kind of part of the OpenAthens suite that we recently redeveloped, launched back in May, the kind of new and improved version of MyAthens. And at its center, it's really a starting point for research and a place that users and patrons can go to start their research journey and find the content that's relevant to them, and also the content that they've got access to. So the main feature within there is the resource list, and this, through its kind of integration with OpenAthens, allows libraries to really quickly and easily generate a personalized list of resources that users have access to. And then around that, customize a really intuitive UX and kind of library portal experience that they can augment with videos and text, links to other discovery service integrations, as you'll hear more about today, all within a package that is simple to set up and manage, as well as simple for users to use and interact with, all around creating that starting point for users to begin their research. So that's kind of just a really quick intro to what MyAthens is before we launch into the main part of the demo. But the bit we're mainly here to focus on today is MyAthens' new integration with a product called Core. Now, one of the, as I said, the key features of MyAthens is that it shows users all of the subscription-based content that they've got access to in one place based on what's been configured for them within OpenAthens. But obviously we're aware that subscription-based content isn't the only content that's out there. There's a whole universe of open access content that users also have access to. So living up to that mission for MyAthens, in terms of being that starting point for research, we think it's important that we increasingly look to show users the full breadth of the content that they've got access to. So that subscription content, which we already do, but also expanding that to all of the open access content that they can access for free. Which is why this integration with Core is so exciting. It's the kind of first step on that journey. As their tagline says, they're the world's largest collection of open access research papers. So that opens up a whole new treasure trove of resources and content that that users can access through MyAthens. So I won't explain too much around what Core is, as we're joined by Petr, the founder of Core, who'll be able to explain it far better than I can. So I'll hand over to Petr now for a walkthrough of Core and its features and functionality, and then at the end we'll have a little product demo of how that integration works within MyAthens.
Thank you very much, Jade. Just want to double check that everyone can see my slide.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. All right, thank you very much for the invitation to this. I am very pleased that we are able to kind of show you today this integration. So really very, very excited. Before I start, I want to mention that Core is basically a service that has been around for just over 10 years now. We have started developing it already in 2011, and it's been a really exciting journey, creating an open, comprehensive, seamless access to all open access content from across the world. Core is a partnership of two organizations. I am, as it was said, from the Open University, but this is a partnership of the Open University with Jisc. What I want to show you in my presentation today is that first I'm just going to give a brief introduction to Core. And in this introduction, I will mention things like the usage, like who are the users of Core, and how Core is used. And I will focus on the content discovery services. And then I will show you basically also, and after kind of telling you a little bit about the services that we provide, I'm just going to hand over to Jake, who will give you a little bit of a demo of the integration of Core in MyAthens. So let me first introduce the Core's mission. Mission has always been to aggregate all open access content from across the world and deliver it to all. When I say all, I mean primarily researchers, but also the general public. And we see a lot of usage from people who genuinely just desire to go and find research-related content that they actually discover. Millions of them discover this content on Core. And this is why we think that for kind of these users, in particular the users who do not have access to paywalled literature, Core is a treasure trove of open access information. But in doing so, there is a lot of sweat we have to put into the building of the collection. And what we are doing as a result is that we enrich the scholarly data using various kinds of state-of-the-art text and data mining technologies to kind of increase the quality of the metadata and make the content more discoverable. We also enable others to develop new tools and use cases on top of the Core platform, which is what we're delivering through some sort of APIs and through machine access, or through providing machine access to the data collection. If we were not doing that, for instance, we wouldn't be able to have an integration of Core into MyAthens, but Core is integrated with many other services because we always feel that the smartest ideas of using the Core content will not necessarily come from the Core team. So we embrace the fact that the data needs to be available for other purposes and for other services to reuse. We very much support the network of open access repositories. We want to help this network to flourish, and we therefore want to be really the best of friends with the people, with the data providers who actually enable us to do what we're doing. And we're also trying to facilitate kind of scalable, cost-effective route for the delivery of open scholarship and also the transition from the paywall scholarship to kind of more open ways of scholarship. This slide shows you in a nutshell some of the statistics about core, which you might be interested in. You can see that we aggregate content from all over the world. We have about or nearly 220 million metadata records in core from 250 countries and in more than 90 languages. The content really is multilingual, although you would not be surprised that most of the content is in English. Maybe about a third of content in core is in other languages as well. We have about or nearly 100 million free-to-read links to full-text papers hosted in other places. And we also host nearly 30 million papers directly, or full-text papers directly on our platform. And this all comes from the network of more than 10,000 data providers. Let me explain a little bit. What is a data provider? A data provider in core could be a repository. It could also be another aggregator of repositories or journals. So for instance, PubMed Central is for us one data provider. Archive is one data provider. Another notable data provider might be the Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, that would be treated for us as one data provider, despite the fact that they actually represent many providers behind them, okay? What is in core? Core contains a very diverse set of content. All this content is related to research, but it comprises of peer-reviewed research papers, books, or it could be textbooks related to research, could be theses and dissertations. We have creative arts materials. We've got grey literature. So we've got really quite a diversity of content, and we are therefore quite different from, let's say, the collection that you might expect to see, for instance, if you wanted to search Crossref. Actually, a lot of the content that is in Crossref is not necessarily, if you know Crossref, is not necessarily in core, and vice versa. We've got about 30 million monthly active users, and that is a really huge number, and the access to core and the usage of core has been growing really rapidly over the last few years. In terms of how it compares to others, we have been in February, this is the last time I looked, we were within the top 1,500 websites globally by user engagement. And this slide shows you something that is called an Alexa rank. This is an independent metric of how much a website is used. And this independent metric is calculated as a combination of daily visitors and page views on a website over a 3-month period. So it changes all the time. But the power of this metric is basically that anyone can go and have a look at this link and basically can go and compare the usage of core with any other website in the world. And I think that kind of helps you to put things into perspective. So for instance, we wanted to compare, if we were to compare ourselves with some other very notable, very highly used open science or open access data services or infrastructure services, this is how we would rank, basically. The lower the rank, the better, the higher the usage, basically. So you can see some very well recognized services and what is their rank in the global in the global ranking of usage on the whole internet, basically. And you might then ask, like, but what does it mean for science and education? Obviously, core is not just a website; it is a website in a specific sector. If you wanted to do that, there's another service called SimilarWeb, which provides these kinds of rankings for science and education, and you would learn from it that we are within the top 50 most used services or domains for science and education. Okay. Now, this is a very important slide because it shows you the kind of portfolio of services that core provides. So core provides services in 3 categories. The first category which I will focus on today, is content discovery. And I think, because I suppose that most of you are really interested in this specific category of services. The second area are services which I call raw data services. These are services that allow machine-to-machine processing of information. And this kind of allows us to make some other services that want to provide, for instance, search engines for specific domains, or to do plagiarism detection, or to do all sorts of very clever and interesting stuff with papers. This is what makes it possible for them to use core. So they are not interested in searching core as a human user. They are interested in using the data of core for their additional purposes. And by doing so, they basically can save a lot of time they don't need to aggregate data from 10,000 providers and harmonize this. They can immediately start using the core API, and that cuts down on the effort that they would normally need to put in place. And then we have also some services for managing of content, and these are primarily services that we use to help the global network of open access repositories. So I said that I would focus on the first group, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Here we've got three services. The first one is Discovery. This is a service which basically allows you to I'll say more just in a minute. So we've got a discovery service, we've got a recommender service, and a search service. And I'm just going to show you more, I think, on these slides. Let me start with search. Search is not, some people might say search is not particularly exciting. It's nothing unexpected these days. But I think that it is worthwhile saying that core search is a bit different from some of the other academic searches that you might be aware of. The first key difference is that whatever you search for by default is content that you will be able to access the full text for. So by default, unless you uncheck the checkbox that we've got here, which is with full text only, you're going to get resources that you can get full text access to without having to have any subscription to any of the publishers. So it focuses on open access content. It also provides faceted searching. I think in this respect, this is not so surprising, but I think it is worth noting that basically the search allows you to, for instance, search only for content in German or in Spanish. Really, what you find is what you get. So if you find the paper, you can access it. And it also, I want to highlight that the people that, in order to participate with content in this search, all you need to do is to basically run a repository which has something which is called an OAI PMH, which is a very standard protocol that repositories generally support. So we don't crawl content across the web, but we harvest content from these approved data providers. And we try to be very, very comprehensive in this. So we run daily processes for discovering new repositories and so on. But the advantage of this is that all the content that actually makes it to core was somehow approved by the local local administrators of those repositories. So by doing so, we effectively are capable of making sure that the content that is in core is not, doesn't, there's no, for instance, harmful content, because we are the second layer basically of that content being surfaced to the users. It makes it to the repositories, which each of them have certain approval processes, and then we aggregate from those repositories into core. Okay. This is a new search which we are bringing up to our users very, very soon. It will be enhanced in multiple ways, but one of the key ways in which we will be enhancing it is basically that we will be joining, like when we have the same instance of multiple papers, we will be joining them together to something that we call a research work. And then we will be able to show that, for the same paper, we have multiple instances in various places. Let me now introduce the Core Recommender. Core Recommender is, in my view, a very unique service. I'm not aware of other services in this space that would provide the same functionality that we do. It allows you to, it's available as a recommended plugin for repositories, and it allows you to, as a repository manager, to basically provide recommendations for similar content to the content that the user is currently seeing. Let me show you how this works. So this is, for instance, a research paper in the University of Cambridge repository called Apollo, and the name of this paper is called Open Content Mining. What we do is that we provide at the bottom of this page these kinds of recommendations, which are basically recommendations for similar content across the global network of repositories that are similar to this paper which I have shown you. Now, the power of this recommender is that when you are using it, you don't necessarily realize that you are using core, and that's the beauty of it. So effectively, the user feels that they have never left the Apollo repository, but yet they are still using core because the recommender system of Apollo is powered by core. And we have about 180 repositories, or 190 repositories that have integrated this plugin and have it actively installed. And one of the most well-known repositories that has it is archive.org. Okay, and then let me introduce the last service, which is called Core Discovery. Core Discovery is effectively a Chrome extension which any user can install into their browser, basically. And whenever the user comes to a paywall, the extension searches for content which is openly available, that is the same as the content behind the paywall, or at least related to the content that is behind the paywall. And effectively, it warns the author before they start paying for the paper that there is an open access version available of the paper. Obviously, if there is one. So core is in any way is in no way trying to pirate. It's not a Sci-Hub. It's not a pirate website. So if the content is not available, then obviously we would not be able to serve the user. We see that in about 40% of the cases when the plugin is activated, we bring open access content from free sources. And if in those cases that we don't, we at least try to bring very similar content to the user that is related to the content the user really wanted to access and is behind the paywall. Okay, now I want to very briefly say, so this is not the focus of this presentation, but I just wanted to let you know that I mentioned these raw data services, or services that allow other people to integrate core into other sorts of applications. And we have just launched a new version of the core API. And we will be having a webinar about this API on the 13th of January 2022. So I just want to invite you, everyone, whoever is interested, please join this webinar if you want to learn more about how you can interact with core from an application perspective. Some services do not want to interact with core through the API, but prefer to have all the data in one place because they want to mine the data, they want to run various kinds of statistics over the data. For instance, they might want to learn what is the increase of open access literature in Germany, or they might want to find out what are the key research trends in a specific country, for instance, in the UK. This is the situations in which the core dataset is a very valuable resource. It is to our knowledge the largest research dataset with openly available full text, and by quite a significant margin, because it contains about 28 million full text papers, and the contender which is closest to us has about 3 million open access papers. So really, it is something, if you want a comprehensive access for text and data mining of literature, then the core dataset is really, really interesting here. This is a slide on which I would really like to hand over to hand over to Jake to show you how the integration works. But before I do so, I just want to shortly conclude with a couple of summary things. So what is Core? Core is a very highly used open access content discovery service. We try to be comprehensive. We are free to the researchers. We provide seamless access to open access content. We provide 3 types of discovery services: search, recommender, and open access discovery. And we also very much want to work with other platforms, such as with MyAthens, to become and be an enabling service, supporting various kinds of integrations. I think it's now time for me to give the floor to Jake so that he can show you the integration.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Petr. That was a really good overview. So, yes, that's a really good overview of Core and what the features and functionality that provides for users. I just wanted to quickly show basically how you can add that integration into your MyAthens setup, and then also what that will look like from the user's perspective. So here should play. So you can see here you've got the admin view of MyAthens, and this is where you navigate to add the Core discovery service. So you scroll down to the add card option, you click content discovery, select Core from that list on the drop down, add card, and then you can then label that card whatever you'd like. So you can label that Core. We know obviously some users may know what Core is, some may not. So you can label that something that can maybe nudge users towards what they can expect to find if they use that service. And then you can place that on the screen wherever you like. So as you can see, as with everything within MyAthens, the intention is for it to be simple and straightforward for admins to set up and manage. So as you can see there, you could, after this webinar, go and add the Core search box to your MyAthens setup within a matter of seconds, really. And that is all part of that aim to make the product as simple and easy to use as possible. Next slide will just show what that looks like from the user's point of view. That's wrong. There we go. So the next slide will just show what that looks like from the user's point of view. So they would sign in, and obviously that search box is then there available for them. They search terms such as biology, for example. Then they navigate to Core, which you'll be familiar with now from Petr's presentation. And you can see they've got access to this article, and they can then just navigate straight to the PDF. So from the user's point of view, again, it's all about MyAthens being that starting point for research. And as I said earlier, one of the things we're really excited about being able to do is start to offer open access content alongside that paid for subscription content that MyAthens already handles really well. Being able to offer those two parts of the kind of content universe in one place is really powerful. And this is, as Petr said, probably going to be one of those first steps along that road. There's definitely, as you've seen, lots more we can do with Core and with open access generally. And we're really excited about the kind of future for these kinds of integrations within MyAthens. So thanks for your time today. Let's skip through that. So thanks for your time. I hope you've kind of learned something about Core. I hope you're excited about this new integration and the kind of future of what that means for MyAthens. I guess I'll hand over to Cynthia now for any questions.
Thank you very much, Jake. So we have a few questions that have arrived. So we have one from W Field. So does it cover all subjects? I suppose they mean Core.
If I might pick up that question, Core is a completely multidisciplinary system. We aggregate resources from any subject, from any field, basically. And we are at the moment also working on tools that would allow people to filter by subject. This is not something that is completely trivial. We would like to bring this information into search. It's not available right now, but I think this is something that that is the future of what we're going to deliver. We actually maybe just to mention that we work with also some other partners who deliver kind of specialized search engines, and we supply the content to them. So we have one specific partner, for instance, who is interested in just chemistry content, and they use Core as a data source for them, and then they build a specialized chemistry search engine system on top of course content.
Thank you, Peter. So I have another one from W Field. Is any data about our usage stored by Core?
This is a very good question. At this particular moment, Core is a completely non-personalized system. So yes, we have some log data, but when you are using Core, you are an anonymous user, basically. So we wouldn't be able to say who basically made which particular search. We are thinking, though, that in the future, we might want to bring, for those users who would like to be logged in and who would like to have a personalized experience, we would like to, those users might, for instance, log in using OpenAthens on Core, and they would be able to benefit from such interactions. In those situations, we would probably store some personalized data. This would need to be governed by some sort of an agreement with the user, and the user would need to be aware of the fact that that is the case. But one thing that I'd like to guarantee basically is that we will not require the user to log in. We are not interested in tracking the users in any way. We are just really interested in delivering scholarship to everyone in the best way possible for them.
Thank you, Peter. So there's another one for you from Clip Van Dort. I was just using it on Edge, but had some errors and couldn't see the facets. Is this a known issue, or does Core work the same in all browsers?
That's a good question. Core should work the same across all browsers. If you see some bugs, then please send it to the team. We have there is a specialized issues box. It's called the team at core.ac.uk. If users report issues to us, we try to fix them.
Thank you. Nathan Newey is asking, is Core available in the catalog in the OpenAthens admin area? Jake, that's for you.
Yeah, so no, it's not available in the catalog. It's only something that you can add through MyAthens Plus at the moment. So you don't need to assign it to any permission sets or anything for it to appear. It'll just be something that you configure within MyAthens.
Great, thank you, Jake. I had some more that were sent to me. So someone's asking, what's the future plans for MyAthens and Core?
Yeah, so I think as Petr alluded to, there's a lot more we could do. I think in the open access space, and especially using some of Core's services. So this is I think this is very much as kind of the first step. I guess maybe one of my questions would be a little bit kind of what are people interested in seeing in the open access space, and what kind of integrations would be most useful for your users. Obviously, there's things like recommender and being able to kind of surface things like that within the product potentially that we could look at. But we're very much kind of at the moment kind of exploring options, and we'll definitely be doing more work to try and work out what will bring the most value within MyAthens.
Thank you, Jake. We have another one for Peter. So Peter, someone's asking, what's the difference between Core and Google Scholar?
Yeah, okay, it's a familiar question, which I've got many times. So I would say basically the key difference is in the way we are acquiring the data and in the data that we are surfacing. We acquire data from, or this is one of the key differences, we acquire data through harvesting open access content and from approved data sources. Google acquires data by crawling the whole web, basically. So that's the first kind of fundamental difference. The second fundamental difference is that we have an API which makes it possible for other services to integrate with us. This is something that I mentioned to you. Google Scholar doesn't have any API. It's not in their interest. It is also the biggest limitation of Google Scholar. So if someone wants to run a specific study, for instance, and they cannot basically, you cannot download data from Google Scholar. You cannot interact with Google Scholar through an API. It doesn't exist, basically. So this is another one. And then maybe the third one is that we actually host some content. Google Scholar is just a search engine that basically gives you links to content which exists in all sorts of other places. Core is more of an aggregator where basically 28 million papers are directly hosted by Core. So I hope that there are probably some other differences as well, but I think these are the key differences which I would describe at this moment.
Great, thank you, Peter. And one other question that I have here: are there other ways for libraries to integrate with core data?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, libraries can integrate the core API into basically their catalogs. That's one option. And one thing that we have also seen used by some libraries in the world was that they integrated not necessarily core search, but they integrated the core discovery system. That's basically, so effectively, whenever in their catalog there was a resource which was also available openly somewhere like freely on the web, they would basically make that link in their catalog visible so that the users can directly see it and they don't need to request it, basically. So there are multiple ways of integrations. Many things are possible, but I would say integration of the core API, or maybe integration also as a link. Some libraries just choose to basically point users to us. They put in the library guide, for instance, information that, hey, you can use the core data set, go to core ACUK and then search. That's also fine. So, there are different levels, different integrations which are possible with different layers of complexity.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Peter. Another one for you from W Field. How frequent is your downtime?
How frequent is our what?
Downtime.
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I suppose is how frequent the platform doesn't work, or yeah, I'm not sure. Do you feel so, maybe you should sort of detail?
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, do you understand?
Okay, if the question is about the reliability of the platform, then we are a small team of about 15 people, and we basically try to commit to a 98+% availability. So this is something that we can control within the resources that we have available. We measure it. We have basically tools that assess it. And this is what we can deliver with the budget that we've got available. We would love to have 99.99, obviously, but I think this would require a slightly larger team.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, just got another question from W Field. And yeah, we interpreted correctly. Thank you, W Field, for your question. Any other questions? Maybe let's wait a few more seconds. Also, Peter, if you want to share the link to your webinar on the chat, feel free to do so everyone can join in on the 13th of January.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you.
So I have another question from Serial's librarian. They're asking, so Core, is it a free service?
Is it a free service? Do I understand correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about the business model of Core. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Core is completely free for the people who search content on Core and who want to access content on Core. Yeah. So it is entirely free. Now, I want to mention that Core stands on 3 pillars effectively. We have the baseline pillar is basically the pillar of our cooperation with Jisc. And the open, so we've got money from which basically is given to us in the form of a service agreement with Jisc, and we also have money from the Open University because the Open University wants to support open scholarship. So this is really important to us. We would not be able to survive without this. Second pillar is research income. We participate in a number of research projects, and we basically get research income through which we manage to make the service better. And the third pillar, which is increasingly important to us as well, is a licensing pillar, which basically is about the raw data services, which I showed you. And it also is a little bit about the management of the content, although there's very few resources coming through that pillar at the moment. So the raw data services pillar basically means that we work with some commercial companies, for instance, one very famous company in plagiarism detection, and we basically sell them a yearly license so that we make it easier for them to aggregate or access all open access content. Now, we are a not-for-profit service, so anything that we gain through this kind of licensing goes directly to the improvement of the service. But this is, something that enables us to basically deliver what we are delivering. So basically, these commercial ventures are effectively subsidizing and making it possible for us to deliver the search, recommender, and these kinds of services freely to the community.
Great, thank you so much, Peter. Let's wait for any other questions. Also, if you have a question and you think about it after the webinar finishes, please get in touch with us at contact@openathens.net. Peter, I'm not sure if you want to leave any contact details. Otherwise, we're happy to.
I'd say that if someone Googles my name, then my contact details
okay.
are available. So.
Right. Let's wait a few more seconds. All right, if there are no more questions, hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much to Peter for taking the time to make the presentation. Thank you to Jake for his presentation as well. And yeah, as I said, if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us at contact@openathens.net. And again, just wanted to reiterate that the recording for this webinar will be on our YouTube channel, and everyone who's registered will get a link. So yes, please feel free to share it with anyone that you think might benefit from this presentation. So yeah, well, thank you very much, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Got a comment here from Bert, great presentation. We'll check the recordings. Thank you, Bert. So thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you again soon in one of our other webinars. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.